Chris Christie, New Jersey governor, former presidential candidate, coming out and supporting a guy a little more than a few weeks ago who was calling a very good entertainer, but wouldn't make a very good president. But this time, Chris Christie said he weighed and thought of all the candidates still in the race and decided to support Donald Trump for president of the United States. That is a very powerful backing because despite the New Jersey governor's low poll numbers, he was seen as sort of an establishment guy, if there is such a thing, who could sort of take out Donald Trump. He was among those names of consensus figures in the party that could sort of one off of Donald Trump. It is fair to say that that is no longer the case. He is on board with Donald Trump, and what's more, both men making it very clear they really are not big fans of Marco Rubio. Now, not too long ago when I'd caught up with Marco Rubio, whether he and Chris Christie had corresponded since Christie dropped out of the race, he said they had not. They exchanged voicemail messages. I don't know if they ever got to talk to one another, but it is very clear here that the chill continues between those two. But you heard coming up in this today whether Chris Christie is a potential running mate for Donald Trump. Now, before he formally dropped out of the race, when I was last with the governor in New Hampshire, this very issue came up. This is what Chris Christie said back then in New Hampshire. Take a look. So, as a running mate for somebody, you could be the guy to be that attack dog. What do you think?
Certainly, it certainly could be, but I won't be, because I'll be the one picking a running mate. And I just,
But you wouldn't rule out if it didn't happen.
I allowed Mitt Romney to consider me the last time, right? So the fact is that you don't run for vice president.
Okay, you never run for vice president, but you never unequivocally turned it down either, and Mr. Christie did not do that today. So what does all this mean? GOP fundraiser extraordinaire, Noelle Nikpour, Lizzie MacDonald back with us, Blake Berman. We've got Scott Brown, the former Massachusetts senator. Scott, begin with you. What do you make of the Christie endorsement and how it sort of checkmates whatever inroads the two senators were making last night in that debate?
Well, first of all, Chris is a dear friend. I have a lot of respect for him and supported him when he was running and vice versa. I think it's obviously very good for Donald. Chris brings a sense of stability. You saw how he handled the questions on the tax returns versus the server. I mean, that's the type of person Chris is. He cuts right to the chase. That's why I and others really liked him. So it's a great move. I'm glad he joined me. I endorsed him, as you know, a couple of weeks ago, and there's others coming on board, and you're seeing, I think, a wider and larger base of people now coming on board because they recognize that he's the guy. And one of my big factors is he's going to go down there and kick some butt and take some numbers down in D.C. and get them to do the people's business again.
Noelle Nikpour, I'm wondering what this means to the big donors in the party. Many of whom were gravitating to Marco Rubio. And whether this is a former establishment guy, for lack of a better term, way of saying, don't do that. Don't do that. I'm an establishment guy, if you want to call me that, and I like this guy Trump.
Well, it's a good point, Neil, and here's what folks are reminding the voters on. Marco has not won anything yet, and while the establishment is thinking of moving towards him, that's the big sentiment right now with people. They don't like the establishment. So if Marco's taking on that mantle of being the establishment guy, I don't know if that helps him.
Well, Noelle Nikpour, what do you think of that and what he just said there?
I do think that, a lot of people that I've been hearing about when Bush got out of the race have been looking at Marco Rubio. Now, I think if you're going to be double hammered by Chris Christie and Donald Trump on Marco Rubio, I think that they're going to hammer home, some of Marco Rubio's weaker points, which is, a lot of people have said they really like Marco Rubio, but they're not really sure that he's ready for the job, that they're not really sure that they still think he's kind of green. So I think that this does not help things at all for Marco Rubio. And with donors are sitting a lot on their checks right now because they don't know what to do, because you've got Trump, a self-funder, and you've got people sitting here saying, well, I don't want to throw, good money into bad. So they're basically sitting on their checks, not really knowing what to do.
Okay, guys, if we can, we don't have to roll the same video again and again and again, so we could stop that. But Lizzie, my immediate concern or question for you is this. Do you get a sense that that is a possible running mate? Now, you could argue, well, he's not popular in Jersey. It would be tough to take a blue state red, although he has in 2 prior elections, but that he'd be an excellent attack dog.
Yes.
One of the things I raised in the interview is that you want your running mate to do something that you maybe as a presidential candidate don't feel like doing, but he could do it.
Yeah, he could do it. And, you know, even Donald Trump last November was asked, would you have room for a Christie in your administration? The answer was yes. Donald Trump said yes. You know, the thing, what does Christie bring to Donald Trump? He has that knockout punch prosecutorial skills where he really goads people out of their element. He did it with Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio went into robotic mode. Christie has repeatedly done it going after Hillary Clinton, you know, just time and again saying, you know, I would have served her a subpoena. She is soft on terror. I have convicted terrorists. He said right now, Christie said, Donald Trump is about protecting the American people, protecting the homeland. Christie can put people back on their heels and get them uncomfortably out of their element.
Very uncomfortable. Again, we're going to have much more on this.